Hi, and welcome to FrazlCast. Climb aboard the GNOME train.
Chugga, 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 chugga.
Please make sure to keep your limbs and experimental instruments inside the train at all times. And now, on with the show.
A podcast by a Blizzard fan gnome about World of Warcraft and geeky stuff. I promise you, they do talk about the World of Warcraft. They just go off the rails sometimes.
I'm Frazly, and I am joined by Pete or TitansCreed of Project Phoenix Productions.
Hello.
So on this episode, we will chat about what we've been up to, and if you haven't been listening to Story Around Azeroth, you'll get to hear all the new stuff. If you have, then awesome, you're listening to a new podcast that I'm on, and we'll get to know Pete and his creative endeavors more. But before we get into that, Epic Insanity, what time is it?
It's time to go around the table.
Great idea. So what have you been up to recently? We'll start with you, Pete, because you're the only other person here other than me for today.
It's just the two of us.
Yes,
we can make it. We can make it if we try.
Yes.
It's a busy week in general for everything. I streamed like 5 days. I've been doing it since January last year. I used to concentrate on the YouTube channel, and I've left the YouTube channel for about a year. And I've just re-upped it recently using what we do, Stories Around Azeroth, which we've started. We've just done the 3rd episode recently, and that's gone live. Podcast, iTunes and Spotify mishaps aside, it has gone live this week. Otherwise, I stream a variety of games for the most part. I'm back on a Warcraft high, back on my Warcraft binge at the moment. So there's that for the most part. But I play some other games. We do Stellaris on Mondays, multiplayer Mondays, as I like to call it. There's about a group of 9 of us that do it. Sundays, I like to call my casually playing. And normally I'll long play a game in those hours. The first season of that, I essentially did the modern Sonic games that were on Steam, and they're going up to YouTube now, just to see how they fare, so you can get to see stuff that came out back in the late end of the 90s and the early 2000s up until the recent ones that came out like last year and the year before, and just to see where they all come up. And it's really interesting to see how they've scaled from long play, where they expect you to go take a break, to now where they're shorter, but they give you replayability features. Otherwise, once a month over on my Twitch stream, I do a race with a good friend of mine, the British Andy, who shockingly lives in Canada at the moment. Yeah, so once a month, I do all the hard end hosting for the stream on both of our sides. We use Discord to share gameplay, and then we use Skype to share cameras. I then take those and put them on the Twitch stream, which we do to both channels. And the main reason for this is last year we decided to start doing a charity race. Basically, we raced through all the classic Sonic games in a day. It took us about 10 to 12 hours, I believe, but we didn't have the technology we had now. So we just basically streamed our own viewpoints on our own channels. So this year we're going for something a bit more, and we're doing both on those. We had a target of about $500 in 10 hours. We did $600, I think nearly $700. But we announced in the race that we did recently that we're doing a new charity race this year. It's happening on June 22nd and June 23rd on both my Twitch channel and his Twitch channel. And we're basically doing all the modern Sonic games that are on Steam. So on the Saturday, we're going to be doing Sonic Adventure 1, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Generations. I think we're looking at about a 13-hour day there. And on the Sunday, we are doing Sonic Lost World, Sonic Mania, and Sonic Forces. Now we have donation goals, stretches, and everything else that we've got planned up, and I'm working on basically all the assets at the moment. We had a trailer that went up on my YouTube channel, and just trying to do our bit. We raise money for special effects. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I loved being able to raise charity for that. Like where you're doing something and it's with a goal in mind. I've always wanted to do things like Extra Life, and one year I'm going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you just got to find something that you want to do, get yourself in the mindset to be there and want to do it for as long as you want to do it. The main reason we do it is because we play very, very well off of each other, because we've known each other for ages. He literally lived about like half an hour, 40 minutes away from me, and I didn't find that out until about 2000 and I want to say 2011. And since then, we just hung out, organized meetups with some of the other guys in the shared community and bits and pieces, and we just stay in touch and do things together.
That's awesome. So yeah, it sounds like a very busy week, but a very fun week too.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, especially it comes in drips and drabs because I tend to need to end up doing video editing. Like I've got 2 big video projects that I've got off of Twitch that I need to render and work through. One's a 3-way vision of a Stellaris multiplayer game, and one is the latest race that myself and Andy did, and I've got to edit those down for YouTube. But it's about finding the time to do that. Yeah, especially when I'm now doing this podcast with you once a week, Stories Around Azeroth, which is on a Sunday night that we film it. We do it live on Twitch and everything else, and then I end up editing it and putting it up. It's an easy job to edit that one, but when you add that on top of everything else, it becomes quite a chore on top of like normal everyday chores and looking for bits and pieces.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like I have looked at doing like video editing because I used to do videos years ago, and I was thinking about doing it for like Twitch and Twitch runs. And at the moment, I'm like, I'm just going to stream on Twitch and do this as like my big editing. And I'm like looking at these amazing podcasts that do video editing. I'm like, yeah, maybe one day. Not for me yet, but I'm amazed at people who do it because I mean that takes a lot of work. So my hat's off to you, but I'm not wearing a hat. Oh, though, could I tell you about something though?
You can always talk to me about anything.
What if I told you there's a meat that's not meat, but tastes like meat?
Is this some sort of vegan monstrosity? I went gluten and dairy free for about 3 to 4 months. It was a good way to lose weight because I like to eat food, but I don't like to work out. I've got problems in my legs and everything, but I'm quite overweight. And going gluten and dairy free is quite nice. There are some very good alternatives, like soy milk is a very good alternative to normal milk, but it's very weighty still. It's like full of calories and everything else. But you could quite easily lose weight without eating the higher calorie stuff and bits and pieces without working out, and it's doable. It's absolutely doable. Exercise is a good way to lose weight on top of that, but if you haven't got the ability to do it, there are many other things out there that you can help to lose weight. So my question to you is, why are you looking at eating meat that's not a meat?
Because I eat enough meat throughout my days that I'm like, if I can replace meat here and there with non-meat, then I might as well. Because I was at Qdoba and we were getting a burrito bowl, and they said, "Hey, we have this impossible meat." I was like, "That sounds impossible." I decided, you know what? Let's do it. It tasted like meat. I mean, and I will be replacing any meal that has impossible with. It actually tasted almost better than meat. I know that I'm going to get email right now. I cannot believe you that you said that meat does not meat tastes like meat.
Taste is very self-influential. The whole reason we say a lot of food tastes like chicken is because for the most part, chicken is a very bland white meat on its own.
Yeah.
So when something tastes like chicken, it's basically very bland and it just tastes very, very flat, just like that. Tasting like meat, you obviously have no other taste sensation to direct it towards. Saying something tastes like meat, it's all well and good, but then people ask, well, what kind of meat? Is it a white meat? Is it a red meat or anything else? If it specifically tastes like meat, I'd be worried that they would have some sort of extract in there or some additive or something else like that to make it feel like it. It's probably full of salt for the most part because that's what a lot of meat is seasoned with.
I'm going to guess, and I think I heard that it's either the Impossible Foods or another that's full of beet juice. So it has a little bit of...
It's a blood supplement. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you're definitely right on that. And I can think a place where they might need a meatless byproduct would definitely be in space.
Yeah. I mean, alternatives to a lot of stuff that they can't take up there, but a lot of stuff is prepackaged and airtight up there because of the oxygen situation on the way to like where everything was the minute something leaves the atmosphere.
And one reason I've been in space is I've been playing Observation by No Code. And I played their Stories Untold, which was a short game, but I loved it. So then on the Epic Games Store, they had this sale. So I bought Observation, and I'm really enjoying it. I play as a computer named Sam. I'm on a space station, and you work through cameras, and you're helping the people in there, and you interact with the character. So you have a sphere at one point where you can move around, but it's a lot of fun. I don't know what's going on.
How long have you played it for? How far into the game are you?
I'm going to guess, I'm getting close to the climax. So I don't know, because something happened that I think it's like, okay, now I see where the game's going.
So I watch I don't have a lot of spare money to buy games and bits and pieces and everything else, especially new ones. But I watch Jesse Cox's YouTube channel, and he has a group called Scary Game Squad, and they did Stories Untold, and I think they just finished Observation. I've only watched, I think, about an episode and a half, so about an hour and a half of it so far. And you're very clearly the bad guy. Like, it's very, I think it's very loosely based on 2001 AD, the one with Hal.
I could see that.
I think that's kind of where they've gone for it.
And what I love too is there are puzzles that you have to. You literally have to observe your surroundings for. Like today, I was stuck on a puzzle. I finally found what I was looking for. I mean, and I love that it has those moments of it's logical, but you have to be observant and
right.
And it's definitely different. I mean, I like being locked into a camera thing, and you're doing all this stuff. And I love not knowing if I'm evil or not. And yeah, you're right. I am evil because the whole thing is moving along. But it's fun to not be knowing who's telling me to be evil or why am I evil. I mean, it's the same where in WoW, I'm currently trying out the different things. I am getting closer to 2 sides to every story on my character. So I have finished Zandalar Forever, and I just need to now finish Tide of Vengeance to get the wolf mount. But in the whole way, I decided I want to get the gift of N'Zoth. So I first went on to Into, because I figured Into's not evil. He's just a peaceful Tarn. So he'll get the gift, and then he'll give it away so I can get the toy. Then I saw how easy that was. And I went on Fraz. And
Fraz is evil.
I mean, you're a gnome. It's basically known that you're evil.
Yes, absolutely. And I decided just to be evil. But you also know who's evil. Capo and Velicella came out and were cheering on my death on the irons. And my Iron Tuned Dwarf died at level 26 to Morlatum, who's also evil.
I mean, you did this to yourself.
Yeah. I went into the graveyard knowing that there were these enemies that were going to kill me.
I want to say I'm partially to blame here because I was live talking to you when this happened, and then I literally went AFK for like half an hour to go deal with something. I came back to your Discord just posting pictures of your death. And I'm like, I literally go away for 30 minutes and this happens.
Yeah, you missed it. I mean, it was just, and I'm telling myself what a stupid idiot I was for going up against an enemy that I knew was going to kill me. But I'm thinking I took us on other alts with gear and heirlooms and talents. But everything's not bad though. I created another iron named Not Aloha. This was an idea by Velicella because I'm not Aloha because I keep dying. Then before we get into the main topics, I just need to share. Darkmoon Herald calls this their sideshow of suck, and actually I sent this in to them to see if they'll use it in the next episode, but I had to share it here as well. A story of learning. So I was running with Michael last night on my Gnome Lil Cuz for the Genome Project, which we do every Wednesday night, and we got up to level 48, so we decided to do Stratholme and kind of see if we get these quests. So we get into Stratholme, and everything's going fine. Our group keeps wiping, and we're kind of remarking about how, these parties don't wait for us to get better, and they just keep rushing things. So we're kind of like, in the good old days, our parties, we would wait for everything. We get up to the Baron, and I try to go to the doors, and they close before I get there. Someone in the party says, "What the?" And I passively aggressively say, "They did not wait for it to clear." The tank says, "Well, I think I saw an arrow shoot." I said in chat, "Well, I didn't. If I did, I didn't intend to." I found out what happened. So I somehow selected the Baron, and I used my right mouse button to control the camera. Well, on a hunter, if you have a mob selected,
auto attack.
Exactly. So I caused the thing that I yelled at. Well, not yelled. I kind of just said passive aggressively, and I mean, still, I was both the hunter that pulled ahead of time, and also the person that got mad at the hunter who pulled ahead of time. So
I think a large part of this and wiping and bits and pieces, especially in dungeons, is the way that the game has just evolved over time. And Classic being around is a very good talking point for this, because Classic's is much more draining on the mana, and it encourages wait and tactically plan after every pack.
Yeah.
Whereas because stuff hits like a wet noodle, and you're for the most part going to outgear a dungeon because the dungeons don't scale in level like they do in the outside world. Now, if Blizzard decided to suddenly change that, I think dungeons might be more of a threat. But if they scale it to the way that time walking does, then they won't be, because you can rush through time walking because they're the heroic versions of the instances. You're not worried or threatened by them. A good thing to bring up would be Final Fantasy XIV's way of scaling things. What they do is that instead of scaling the dungeon up, they scale all the players down to the maximum level for what you would be able to do in that dungeon.
Like time walking.
Yes, for the most part. In time walking, you still get the use of all of your abilities regardless of the level you got them. In Final Fantasy XIV, that's not the case. You only get the use of your abilities equal to the level that you would be when you were in that dungeon.
Oh.
But it's also, those numbers are based on what they think you can do. So regardless of where you are and what level you're at, you could still wipe in that dungeon.
Yeah, I remember like Titan was always seemed difficult to me, even at high levels. And that explains it, because when you do Titan, you're doing it at level and what your character could do at the time. Mm-hmm. That would be interesting, because one thing I have remarked on is I'm hearing Allie talk about all of these amazing bosses. And Allie, this is another plug for the awesome Dungeon Fables. One thing I've been remarking on is you never get to experience the mechanics in dungeons the way that you did. And it would be cool if when you could have a mode of going back into a dungeon, not clearing it for transmog, but actually playing it that way. And I would love to see more of that. I would love to see it where it would take you down the level.
So here's another way to look at that. When World of Warcraft first came out, back in 2004, if I've got my years right, it was the more casual MMO. Regardless of how ugly it looked or how it acts today based in the eyes of whoever's new to it after 15 years, that was the more casual MMO compared to everything else. I came to World of Warcraft off Final Fantasy XI. Now, Final Fantasy XI, you needed to be in a group to actually level in the outside world from level 8 to 10 plus. But to get to the next level, you need to run from your starting zone to through a level 20 area to get to that next level. And then by the time you got to level 18, there was a quest where you could get dual spec, especially, and take up a secondary class, which gives you half of its levels towards your main one. So then you went back to your capital, and then you had to re-level a class all the way back over, and then you get to the next area again. And then you got to find a pie, but you might not find a pie. Now, World of Warcraft was very single player focused, and then you could do group content if you wanted to get the rest of the story for the zone you wanted to do. Now we're at a point where World of Warcraft is still trying to be casual friendly, but it doesn't reward you for being casual friendly. And that's the problem. It's up against a lot of games which are, I want to say, casual friendly. Apex Legends and Fortnite we'll use as a very good example here. You can jump in to a game, play the game, and you are rewarded either daily or weekly through specific quests, depending on the time you put in. What do we have in Warcraft? Well, Warcraft turns around and it goes, well, for your weekly effort, we're going to push you to do Mythic Plus. That is the big reward you want to do. If you want to take it further, your weekly rewards could be, well, it's the islands as well in BFA. They've got your raids. And your daily stuff, well, you can do a daily dungeon if you really want. No one does, because they're not rewarding. Once you get to a certain level, that stuff is not rewarding.
Yeah.
The Azerite's not worth the time to do it. The dungeon queue takes too long to even want to fathom or anything else. So what's the other daily thing we've got to do? Oh, we've got world quests, which again are not rewarding for the time you put in. It's trying to be a casual friendly MMO, but Final Fantasy does it better.
Yeah, like one thing I know in Final Fantasy that I loved was the challenge log. I loved having a thing that would give me good gold and different things, and I wanted to do it. The other benefit was I also had multiple jobs, so I could use the challenge log to up my XP. And because once you in WoW you remove the XP for getting to level cap, there's no reason to do some of that stuff.
No. Which is why, especially with Legion and BFA, they've focused more on having end game progression. They've wanted to have end game progression in since back in the Cataclysm with Path of the Titans and everything else. Well, they scrapped that obviously, but they've got these end game progression, which is the artifact power, which again it tends to be more the grindy side, and because players want that gratification when they do something, but there's too much to it. It's too steep of a curve. There are many things that they could do to change it. I mean, we've talked on Stories Around Azeroth about how they could make some changes to the alt progression stuff to make the game's definitely more alt friendly. You know, I mean, there's a big difference between having all the classes available to you on one character and having to do all of your classes on different characters.
Yeah. So yeah, let that be a lesson, everybody. Don't be like me and don't accidentally pull the group and then yell at the group for pulling before you get in the door on the boss.
Just don't touch buttons until the boss is pulled. That's it.
Exactly. I would have fully expected that you'd be vote kicked. So, Pete, since this is your first episode, I love to get to know guests. So you mentioned how Final Fantasy XI is how you got into WoW. Mm-hmm. But how did you get into gaming?
I've always been a gamer. I grew up with a Commodore 64, an Amiga. My first gaming console was a Mega Drive. I got that on my birthday. I was in the Cub Scouts at the time. My first proper gaming memory when I was a young child, I was in the Cub Scouts and we had a trip to Butlins, which is like a small theme park that we've got over here for you, anyone that lives outside of the UK. And we got there and Sonic the Hedgehog was there, and Sonic the Hedgehog was my first console game, and I played it. I was up at 6 a.m. before school in that day playing Sonic the Hedgehog on my Mega Drive, sitting right up close to the TV as a kid and a youngster and all that. And Sonic the Hedgehog was there, and I went up to him and I went, I played your game. It's really good, and I want to learn how to finish it. I can't get past the first level. I didn't know it was a guy in a suit, And you're a kid. You don't know any better. You just see something that's there and you want to do it.
I remember Chucky from Rugrats. I was at something Kings Island, which was a park near us, and Chucky, I thought it was Chucky from the show.
There you go. See? But it's gone from there into, I found my niche being RPGs. One of my favorite gaming series back on the Mega Drive was Shining Force. I got into that with Shining Force CD on the Mega CD. I still have a copy of that to this day. Played Shining Force 2. And then, Shining Force has been my big RPG. It's the Sega version of Fire Emblem.
Okay.
If you're more Nintendo focused, and that's the kind of RPG I like, the strategic ones and bits and pieces. But from there, I didn't really have another Saturn or a Dreamcast or anything else like that. And I got into the N64 and just enjoyed playing some RPGs. Eventually, I went round to a friend's house and they had Final Fantasy VII. Enjoyed that for the most part. I think it's overrated as Final Fantasy VIII came out. My brother had a PlayStation at the time. I played that to death. Then, I had a GameCube because I grew into more Nintendo because the N64 was the first console I bought myself. I had a GameCube. I bought that myself as well. And then and then with the Dreamcast died, they announced Sonic Adventure and Adventure 2 were coming to the GameCube. Got those, played those. Sonic Adventure 2 was rebranded as Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and Sonic Adventure came to DX, and they both came over. Played those, loved those. And then eventually, when I was in college, eventually got access to a PC, and I found Final Fantasy XI. I had a paper round. I worked out a sub for it, started playing that. And then for a while, I was sick of just the limited time and not being able to level, and I heard that WoW was more casual friendly towards the single player audience, and I could just go for it. I didn't get started on it earlier because it looked too cartoony and not more realistic like Final Fantasy XI in terms of the characters, so I just gave it a break, but I got into it, and then I've been playing World of Warcraft for God knows how long.
Yeah, looking back in life, what did I do with my life?
Wasted it on Warcraft.
Hey, but it's not a waste. I mean, getting 400 mounts, that's an amazing achievement.
My green feathery lad.
So what would you say is your play style in WoW?
Right. Oh, where can this begin? Okay, so I didn't really start raiding until Burning Crusade. I was in an RP guild in Classic. They didn't want us to raid in there, but a group of us wanted to, so we all joined a raid group. And it really kicked off when we said that we were going to make our own raid group as well towards some of Tier 5. because the old one was falling apart. We set up our own one itself. The raid master in that guild blew a gasket. And then went on a massive tirade because we killed the guild because we wanted to go raiding rather than RP on the RP realm, which is fair enough. But, they weren't doing anything to really push the RP sets because they were American on an EU realm, so they were never here when we were around. So
Yeah.
we just wanted to play the game and do what we wanted. So I raided solidly from Burning Crusade all the way through till Cataclysm on Earthen Ring EU. And then I jumped ship to the Shatar on the EU for Mists of Pandaria. So the guild I joined in Wrath towards the end of Wrath of the Lich King Unity Path was the best on the server. They kept going for the realm first and everything else. I didn't hear about them until achievements were brought in because there was the realm-wide achievement spam when they got a realm first for like Sartharian, Malagos, and all of that stuff back at the beginning of Wrath. I joined them towards the end of Wrath, and then we pushed realm first heroics. Cataclysm was tough. We went down to 10-man raiding for that because, fielding a 25-man guild was really tough after that. And 10-man was just a lot easier to try and field. So we did that. We managed to get realm first. Not everything. We got realm first Alakir, which was the harder one, but we lost out on realm first. And we got realm first we lost out on realm first Cho'Gao, but we got realm first Sinistra. And then we got realm first Heroic Rag. I could tell you a lot of stories about that one. That's an absolute bastard of a fight that was on progression. We got realm first Deathwing. And then I went to go join some friends for Mists of Pandaria. We got realm first challenge modes. I actually have that achievement to this day. Cleared all of the challenge modes and got realm first achievement, and that is one of the biggest achievements I'm really proud of in the game is having realm first challenge modes. That was really good, and that's where I really stepped up to being a raid leader. The first raid we did in Mr. Pandaria, the guild there wiped on the dogs all night. We spent hours wiping on the dogs on day one, and then once we got to Heart of Fear, they asked for extra raid leaders. I applied, saying I think I could do it. My first goal was to do Heroic Garrelon. Absolute bass of a fight. We spent 2 hours on it, and on the last pull of the night, we killed it. Massive sense of satisfaction. And it turns out that getting the heroic kill on Garrelon was the first realm first kill that guild had got. And it was the realm first kill on Garrelon just in general on that realm. I took that from raid leading, and then we went for realm first on everything. We got realm first Shah of Fear. We got realm first Emperor Shexir. We didn't get realm first. I don't remember the name, but the last boss in the Will of the Emperor. We didn't get that one. We killed it on 10 at the end of it. And then we actually got realm firstly Shen, but nobody got Raden down until Siege came out. So we lost out on that because the guild, the day that Siege came out, someone went in there, they extended their lock, and they went in and got realm first Raden with a whole set of new gear and upgrades from day one. So that was a bit gutting, but we went and killed it later. And we got realm first Garrosh Heroic, and I actually have a lot of those kills up on my YouTube channel, actually. But that was pretty much the end. In Warlords, we tried to do it again, but a lot of people burnt out, and Blast Furnace, being the guild killer that it was, kind of killed the guild. Mythic Blast Furnace killed the guild in Blackrock Foundry. But we did get realm first. Oh my goodness. The Grand Sorcerer at the end of the Ogre Raid. We got realm first on that. That was a fun kill. I enjoyed that one. But yeah, and then I've come back to Earthen Ring. I've played a healer all the way from Classic all the way up until Legion, and then from Legion I went Shadow. I played Shadow for all of that in Legion on my Priest, and then when BFA came out, I switched to my Monk as a main, and then pretty much after the first raiding set, I kind of lost touch with WoW and took a break from it. I've come back about 6 weeks ago, switched mains to my Demon Hunter, enjoying how Demon Hunter plays and the way it looks and everything else. Just enjoying the game again.
And now are you still raiding, or are you?
I'm going to come back to raiding in 8.2.
Okay.
And do Ashara and all that. I'm looking forward to that. I've geared up my Demon Hunter. It's hit 403 average item level now without stepping into a raid.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. Mythic Plus is a good way to gear, shockingly.
Yes.
But yeah, no, otherwise, a lot of my time, I spend about a Wednesday or a Thursday stream just going through and clearing stuff that I can solo. So I do a quick run through Lower Karazhan on Mythic Zero. I do Mogashan Vaults, Throne of Thunder, all the 3 of the 4 Pandaria world bosses that I still need to get a mount from. I go and do Blackrock Foundry, and I go and do Rookmar over in Warlords of Draenor. And I tried to do that on about 2 characters a week. I haven't done it on my monk yet, but I'll probably do it off stream.
And one thing that you've been mentioning through this is YouTube and streaming. I kind of take it that they're different facets of the same type of thing. So how did you get started into making videos? And then I hear from the videos that you got into making streams.
Way back when I was really interested in the Sonic community, I started to do a written piece called the Community Spotlight, where I would talk to people within the Sonic community, artists, community websites, and various bits and pieces. I did a whole season of about 10 to 11 written pieces, but on Sonic Rex at the time is now Last Minute Continue. A lot of these people that I talked to are friends, and so it was a lot easier to get them. It's a lot harder to get people that want to talk in America because of this time zones, and then without being rude, a lot of Americans have very switch on, switch off attitudes. So if you're not continuing a conversation within 5 minutes, they're not interested.
What?
So... But I did a whole season. I then transitioned because YouTube was becoming a thing, and I thought, let's make this into a YouTube channel, and that's when I made my first YouTube channel, and I did another whole season of my Community Spotlight there. Mostly it was just all verbal, no webcams or anything else, because I'm still trying to make do. Made all of those videos for that season with Windows Movie Maker.
Wow. Nice. I used to use that when I made my first video, so I commend you for that.
Yeah. But you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a lot easier to get anywhere now, like video crafting technology and everything else. But the YouTube channel devolved into essentially just making Let's Plays over time, because I would just play games that I really wanted to play or stuff. And if I wasn't interested, it just drops off and they just sit there as puck marks on the channel. And then there's a point where it's just like, if I want to play a game, I want to play what I want to play. And if I'm going to play the game, I may as well stream it and just talk to people, because, I'm talking to people on Discord and everything else as it is when I'm playing those games. So I'll just get into streaming. And then I did a few things every now and again. I've had the Twitch name since, back in the Justin TV days.
Wow. Nice.
But I made it into its own channel. I redid all the artwork and the graphics and that back in January last year. I then went and retouched it up, I believe, November last year, to bring it up a bit more in line with what I wanted to do with it. And now we're back into a point where I do 5 days straight, mostly Thursday through to Monday, have Tuesday, Wednesday off to do my video editing, catch up on wrestling. I do Stories of Wrong Avizoth on a Sunday night. And then Monday I'll do Stellaris, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show. And then Thursday's probably Warcraft. Friday is more what I dub my Hate Your Friends Friday, where I play multiplayer games with other people where we can just hate to play with each other, like Monopoly, Dead by Daylight, Worms, everything where we can just go out and just call our friends any names under the sun. And I just like to just play games. And it's just like, if you play games and you're streaming it, you got to have fun,
Yeah.
I find it's a lot easier to bounce off people when you're doing any sort of content. Otherwise, you just end up just talking into the abyss.
Yeah. One thing I've been hearing from people that they say is one of the things that they like my streams. I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, but they like the interactivity. And I like that too. I like being able to talk with people. I like this show for being able to talk with people along with it.
Absolutely. You hear a lot of people that they'll see people like Ninja who break out and have like hundreds of thousands of viewers like every time they stream. And they think that they can just set up a stream or a YouTube channel and just go at it straight from there. Unless you get some really breakout thing, or like you're literally on day one for a game and then it suddenly explodes in popularity. Once Kotaku or Polygon, they'll do a thing on the game and then people will Google it and they'll see what, be like, oh, you're the guy that's been streaming Deus Ex Sonic Origins since, it was out on Kickstarter and you've had access from day one. And then they'll get a following, but you'll be known for doing that game. And I like to be like, hey, I play Warcraft, I play other games as well. You can find me and you can come and chat. come and just sit and chat. Come and chat with me. I will gladly talk to you any day. I play multiplayer games with people, and I just enjoy the company I'm with. Like, I won't talk to someone if, I think they're going to be a complete douchebag,
Yeah, because I want to talk to people that are fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's the point in playing games with people if they're not going to be fun to talk to?
Yeah, and I have met some amazingly fun people. I mean, that's been my surprise. I mean, like, talking with you, I think we got into our first voice chat a while back, and I'm learning, like, oh yeah, Pete's a really cool guy. I've liked you in Discord in our text chats. It's fun talking with you.
Thank you. I tried to be entertaining. This is hard at times.
Oh no, Capo. Capo in the chat saying, "Okay, peace out." Then no, Capo's awesome. Capo's always sending me voice messages and making my day. So Capo,
well, there you go.
Heart hands. So you started a new World of Warcraft podcast, but this isn't your first podcast rodeo. The other one I hear is on wrestling, if I remember correctly.
Yes. So we've been going for about a year and a half now, I think. It's called Last Minute Kickout. Now, there's 3 of us that do it. It's myself and a couple of friends from the Sonic community who like wrestling. And I just turned around and I pitched an idea one day, and I was just like, why don't we just sit down after the end of every pay-per-view and we'll go through it. We'll talk about what we like, what we dislike. We'll give it a rating. It's just for fun and everything else. But, I think it'll be content,
Yeah.
Because the guy that runs Last Minute site and the Twitch channel and the YouTube channel, he's a really fun guy. But a lot of the stuff is Let's Plays and everything else, and I thought we could just do something to break up the Let's Plays of it. So I said, look, why don't we do this? And John Turbo came up with we brainstormed some names, and we came up with Last Minute Kickout. It keeps the branding, but it makes it more wrestling themed. And we talk about primarily WWE pay-per-views because, as I mentioned, there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of wrestling in the world. Like, even if you take a lot of the indies out of it and just focus on the main stuff, like, you've got WWE, you've got Impact TNA if you want to watch it, you've got New Japan Pro Wrestling, and now you've got AEW as well. I mean, WWE, if you just look at it, is 5 hours of mainstream wrestling, an extra hour if you want to watch the cruiserweights, and then they've got all of the original stuff on the WWE network. Like, if you just watch 5 hours and then you have 1, maybe 2 pay-per-views a month, which is another 3 to 4 hours on top of that, there's a lot to do in a week.
Yeah.
And you can't, unless you have a job which pays you to cover all of that information, you can't seriously imbibe all of that information.
Is WWE the one that also has the stories between the wrestlers, or is it WWF?
It's changed a lot of the times. It's always been, the best way to describe it is man drama. So, okay. Think of it as an episode. What's a big TV drama that's over in the States?
I would probably say This Is Us. It's Hulu based, but yeah, that's a big drama.
Okay, so think of that with about half an hour of storyline interwoven per episode, and then you have a 20 to 30 minute punch out.
Okay,
and then you have the next story that's like another set of stories, and just to set up a storyline that goes down all the thing. It's the product's evolved over time, but we focus on that. We just the most recent one we did is on the AEW pay-per-view, which was a lot of fun. But like everything, it's just a matter of just trying to reel in who you're talking with half the time, so stuff doesn't massively overrun and make itself not ideal to record.
Yeah, absolutely, and kind of watching the recording clock. Absolutely, I know that well.
Yeah.
And then you started around Azeroth. I've been enjoying that. Mm-hmm. In the podcast journey, what would you say your experience has been like so far?
When it comes to the wrestling one, that's never really been handled by me. I just came up with the idea. I host the Discord call, but someone else would always record it, which would be Kevin, because Kevin holds the keys to the YouTube channel on the back end of the website. Now, since I've been currently unemployed while looking for work, I've had more time in my hands, and he's found a job that he's working at as well. So it's changed from I host the call, I record the call, I edit, and I upload it to the FTP, because we can't, for some reason, I've got access to both of his main YouTube channel and mine, but I haven't got access. I can't get access to the Last Minute Kickout one specifically, so I have to upload them to the FTP, and I let him deal with all of the advertising and everything else for that. Whereas I now have Stories Around Azeroth is my first podcast, as it were, that I'm doing, and thankfully, thanks to you, I've learned a little bit more about it. And I mean, with the exception of when we first set it up with the website on episode 1. The reason most recent episode is the only one that's really caused a hassle, and that's just because there was some back-end changes on the website that with a bug and everything else. I think it was to do with fixing the RSS caches so that if you followed the subscription for the feed, you weren't getting all of the website podcasts and just the one for the channel.
That would make sense. And yeah, that's one thing that I've outsourced some of my feeds to like Libsyn and like Fireside because I don't want to deal with some of that stuff.
No, absolutely.
Because I just had to fix a WordPress site that was running fine and I had it how I wanted it. But on the back end was like a molten core of like crumbling wreckage and like the server was like dying under its breath. So I think I have it fixed for the most part. But yeah, tech issues are fun. So what would you say in all of this has been your biggest obstacle you've had to overcome?
Time management. If we're talking more of the gaming and sorting everything else out as well, when you hit it's easy to schedule half of your life. It really is. And human beings are creatures of habit and work life. And we always need something to keep ourselves going, as it was. We make things into a job. And I think it's why a lot of people like World of Warcraft Classic, because it feels like everything you're doing is a job there. And like work, there's a sense of reward and achievement when you do well in that job. Now, when it comes to streaming, video editing, recording, and everything else, you can work out that side of your life without any other obstacles other than eating and doing bits and pieces. It's the minute that you're doing all of that and working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week on top of that, it makes life incredibly difficult. And there have been days where I've started a new job and I'd be like, right, I've started a new job. We're not going to do any streams for the first couple of days. I'm just going to train and then I'll get into it. But you miss that one streaming day or you miss that one recording day and you're like, well, I've missed one, I can just have another break. And then all of a sudden it's Wednesday the following week. You haven't done any video content or editing for a week. And you're like, oh. So time management is the biggest obstacle to ever overcome, especially when you've got a normal working balance, because you finished doing 8 hours of work. You don't want to go home and then work more.
Yeah.
You want to sit in front of that computer. You want to play games and relax and de-stress, not go back home and then put on the next game face because you got to be in a certain mindset if you want to record or stream, because you can't just get back home from work, slump into your chair and be and just play games. You can't do that, especially to an audience.
Yeah.
Like, you're a different person when you're trying to chill. Like, you'll be quiet, you'll have music on or bits and pieces. I try to be as chill as I can. Like, I like to think that whoever I am that you see now, whoever that you talk to, I'm the same guy. I might just not respond to your messages as fast when it's not something that I need to get done. I'm very time punctual as well. Yeah, time management is something. That's the biggest obstacle when it comes to everything.
Then what would you say is the best piece of advice anyone has ever given you?
Die.
Oh,
sleep when you're dead. Like, you don't understand how much time your body needs to recoup for stuff. Like, I remember when I was working, I was 16 to 20. I could quite easily go out, party, have fun, finish work, go out, party, go to sleep for 4 hours, get up and do it all again, and I'd be fine. Now, no. If I don't get 8 hours of sleep, I'm harsh, dead to the world. Advice is a very cyclical thing. You've got to be very careful about what you can say, what you can take as advice and what not to take as advice, really. Take life as it comes. Take time if you need it. You just need to take every day as it comes. Essentially, if you've got time to do anything that you want to spend time doing, whether it's recording, whether it's just playing games, whether you just want to make content on the internet for other people to enjoy, you take the time as you want to do it,
Yeah. And you got to enjoy what you're doing, and you got to enjoy the things.
Absolutely need to enjoy what you're doing. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it.
Yeah.
You can't get into doing a podcast, doing video content, trying to be an internet celebrity if you don't enjoy it. I mean, sure, if you get big and you make money off it, that's great, but you've got to enjoy it. Don't do it for the sake of doing it.
Absolutely. But speaking of time management, I think that means that we've come to the end of the episode. So thank you for joining me on FrazlCast. Time always flies. You set up these time recordings and then like the time just goes, it's gone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You really do forget how quickly time goes.
Yes. I remember when I first did my first episodes, they would just go on and on and on. And I was like, how do I get better? So I've tried to really work on that, because then when I have to edit every hour of the episode, I'm like, yep, I want, there we go. And I try to weave that story, try to find what am I looking for from each person. And I had a great time tonight. But if people want to hear more from you, where can they find you on the interwebs?
Nearly anywhere you can think of, for the most part. I have an Instagram that I don't use, but you can find me on Twitter. You can find my personal one at TitansCreed. You can find my gaming one, which I use to tweet out about YouTube, Twitch, any particular gaming one. If I follow you on that one, it generally means that it's a gaming orientated thing that I'm interested in, but you can follow it on at Gaming Phoenix if you don't want any of my random bollocks that comes out of my head. You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/Project Phoenix Productions and twitch.tv/Project Phoenix Productions. Those would be the best places to come and find me, in all honesty.
And you can find me with Pete at Stories Around Azeroth. So definitely follow those, because then you'll see when Stories Around Azeroth is streaming and also when it's posted live. So I'm having a good time in getting to know Pete. And it's weird being the co-host or guest on that one and not being the one in charge, but kind of going off of what you do. And it's also fun. I like letting you do all the main work, and I do what I can.
Well, I'm sure, as evidenced on this podcast, if I've got something to talk about, then I'll just go on about and do it.
Yeah, it's fun though, and I love hearing people's viewpoints.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's a crazy old cat lady over in Ironforge who was telling me about where to find some battle pets to collect. So I'm going to head over to Ironforge.
Activating customized Orphan transporter.
Well, I am back in my home of Ironforge until we one day reclaim Nomergon. That was a faulty thing with the cat lady. They just kept telling me about the good old days and all that, and never told me about any of the battle pets. But you know what? I think it's time for something.
Let's look at what has been happening in the community.
Awesome. Let's do that. So Calm Before the Storm hit the final stretch goal and is now at 43,215. The Kickstarter ends on Saturday, June 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern. We will be able to celebrate with commemorative pint glasses. The pre-sale for the BlizzCon 2019 commemorative collectibles ends on June 19th. These are the Orc, Grunt, and Human Footman statues. They are $45 each. These will be printed on demand and delivered to your home by the beginning of BlizzCon. And Wildhead has some cool things happening with the Wildhead Classic site. They have now added the raid loot tables. With this update, all raid bosses, including rare spawns, should have their gear tables added. They have also added the first round of filters for the database. These are item stats, so you can filter for items with fire resistance, spell hit, dagger skill, and more. And do you want to be a bard in WoW, just like you could in Star Wars Galaxies? Well, now you can. TitansCreed showed me an add-on that I need to add that lets you play and listen to songs with everyone else who has the add-on installed. And if music's not your jam, or if it is and you also love Hearthstone, Icy Veins is recruiting a dedicated Hearthstone writer. Have the chops? Well, why don't you see if it's in the cards and apply? And there are two awesome things happening to raise money for the Trevor Project, which is the world's largest suicide prevention and crisis intervention organization for LGBTQ young people. The Pride Pin with the Blizzard Entertainment in Rainbow is on sale. The pin is $15, and proceeds through July 31st will go to the Trevor Project. And the Running of the Trolls returns for its 5th year. It will take place on June 29th at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Feathermoon, US. The goal is to bring awareness and raise money for the Trevor Project. The goal for this year is $3,000. Well, this has been another episode of FrazlCast. So I was on the Converted Podcast episode 150 with an AMA and more. I had a great time. This is a podcast about the Convert to Raid Guild, and you get to hear from so many awesome people. And I always love being able to chat with Turarch, Sal, and Bartholomew, and Echelon too. Even though I have to leave the call for Echelon to be on. But Echelon's a cool person too. I've talked with them a few times. And my great friend Capo left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, which is the name for iTunes podcasts that Apple has been asking podcasters to say ever since I started podcasting regularly in 2017. So even though iTunes is going away in the next Mac, Apple Podcasts will remain. So the review is fun listen for a gnome. Frazly is one of the most entertaining podcasters in the game. His unique conversational style and endless puns will keep guests and listeners on their toes and smiling. However, when he breaks into song, you might want to have some earplugs nearby. Oh, I love to sing! And every episode, I love to take a little bit of time to thank all my Twitch subs out there. Thank you to Michael of the Bluebird Clues and Nerd This Podcast. Thank you to Dusty of Nerd This Podcast and YouTube Creators Hub Podcast, and also the awesome Twitch streams. Thank you to Resurus. Thank you to Smashersaurus. Thank you to Speaker for Dead. Thank you to Thorn of Lagging Balls and BNN. Thank you to Velicella. Thank you to Zorts the Goblin. And thank you to Nihar. And thank you to Amanda and Velicella for the bits. If you want to support the show with a bit, tip, sub, or shirt, please go to support.gnomepodcast.com. All of these bits, tips, and subs and shirts go to help supporting this labor of love. Well, I am Frazly, and you can find the show at gnomepodcast.com. So until next week, be awesome. Welcome to the Frazl Report, a short broadcast by me, the Awesome Gnome, about the World of Warcraft. So planning is ramping up for another epic 1,000-boat bash. This is the time for the Horde and the Alliance to lay down their arms and relax on the waters that cover the old racetrack and Thousand Needles. The event will run from June 6th to the 8th, but then after that, you can stay as long as you like. For those without boats, there will be plenty of food and drinks to make for fabulous sitting on the dock of the barge, watching the time roll away. I can't whistle. Speaking of Thousand Needles, races will be starting up again on the Mirage Raceway once Classic launches. We will once again be able to see who is better at driving, the gnomes or the goblins. You all know as well as I do that it's the gnomes. Each team is already working on new versions of their cars. The Mirage Raceway Independent Oversight Committee has decided to prohibit use of Tertullian shells after receiving a cease and desist letter from Nintendo. Sounds like a shelfish move to me. And Dora, the traveling NPC, who is often seen talking to thin air and yelling for their backpack and a map, would like to remind you to bring plenty of sunscreen and also wear your life vest so you can be safe. Well, I'm off to go bask in the sun. Until next time, be awesome.
We are the Forsaken.
You're listening to a Corpse Run Radio minicast.
Can you believe it? Episode 100 already. Well, 50 episodes and 50 minicasts. Overall, episode 100. And what better way to celebrate that milestone of 100 CRR episodes than this?
I just started to, tap into, wow, what is really happening here? And all these artists that do renderings of your character and the beautiful creative stuff that people make with their passion for the game. I just found this so really great and lovely. So, I think it definitely, pushed me in to want to like something and want to say, wow, that's amazing. And this cosplay. I mean, some of this cosplay is like, what? Did you make that? What in the name of heaven? That thing is so cool.
Yes, the Dark Lady is back for episode 100 of Corpse Run Radio.
Oh, no.
Thank you for listening. Now go out, my minions. Let nothing stand in your way. Until next time.
FrazlCast is a fan podcast that covers Blizzard games. We are not affiliated with Blizzard Entertainment, Inc. Views expressed by the host and guests are their own. Some of the art, music, and sound effects come from Blizzard games and are owned by Blizzard Entertainment, Inc. No copyright infringement is intended.
This show is brought to you by Dragon Powered Studio. Find more at dragonpoweredstudio.com.